This is Top Accurate Global News Update. I am Abiodun Mohammed. Ukrainian missiles struck the Chonhar road bridge connecting Crimea with Russian-held parts of the southern Kherson region overnight, forcing traffic to be diverted to a different route. Russian-appointed officials said on Thursday the so-called gate to Crimea, known by Russians with a different spelling as the Chongar Bridge, is one of a handful of links between Crimea, which Moscow annexed from Ukraine in 2014, and mainland Ukraine. It is on a route used by the Russian military to move between Crimea and other parts of Ukraine under its control. There was no immediate comment from Kiev, which has said it wants to retake Crimea and drive all Russian forces from its territory. Vladimir Saudo, the Russian-appointed governor of Kherson, part of which Russian forces have captured during what Moscow calls its special military operation, said the road bridge had been damaged, but that there were no casualties. One picture Saudo posted on Telegram showed a large hole in the bridge surface with water visible beneath it and debris scattered nearby. Saudo said initial information suggested Ukraine was likely to have used British-supplied Storm Shadow missiles for the strike. A multinational search team crisscrossed the sea and skies above the century-old wreck of the Titanic for a fifth day on Thursday, seeking a tourist submersible that went missing with 5 people aboard and was just hours away from the presumed end of its air supply. The minivan-sized submersible Titan, operated by US-based OceanGate Expeditions, began its descent at 8 a.m. on Sunday. It lost contact with its surface support ship near the end of what should have been a 2-hour dive to the site of the world's most famous shipwreck in the remote corner of the North Atlantic. The Titan set off with 96 hours of air, according to the company, meaning its oxygen tanks would likely be depleted sometime on Thursday morning. How long the air would actually last, experts said, depended on various factors, such as whether the submersible still had power and how calm those aboard remained. Still, the countdown to oxygen depletion posed only a hypothetical deadline, assuming the missing vessel was even still intact rather than trapped or damaged in punishing depths at or near the sea floor. Rescue teams and loved ones of the Titan's 5 occupants took hope in US Coast Guard reports on Wednesday that Canadian search planes had recorded undersea noises using sonar buoys earlier that day and on Tuesday. Thousands of Druze Arab protesters in the occupied Golan Heights were met with Israeli tear gas, sponge-tipped bullets, and a water cannon as they demonstrated against the construction of wind turbines there. The protests and their subsequent quelling by Israeli authorities took place on Wednesday in a region where relations between Druze residents and occupying Israel forces are generally otherwise placid. The Druze residents fear the construction of the turbines will damage their properties, with landowners also saying they were not properly briefed on agreements they signed with a local power company. At least 20 people were injured as authorities hit back at protesters who threw stones, set off fireworks, lit tires, blocked roads, and vandalized cars. 8 civilians were left in serious condition, while 12 police officers were lightly wounded. The protest also blocked off roads in northern Israel, with Druze citizens of Israel, who are 1.5% of the population and have representation in its military and public service, among the demonstrators. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met Druze leader Sheikh Muwaffaq Tarif to discuss the incident. The Biden administration will make it easier for Indians to live and work in the United States, using this week's state visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to help some skilled workers enter or remain in the country. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, the State Department could announce as soon as Thursday that a small number of Indians and other foreign workers on H-1B visas will be able to renew those visas in the US without having to travel abroad. One of the sources said, part of a pilot program that could be expanded in coming years. Indian citizens are by far the most active users of the US H-1B program and made up 73% of the nearly 442,000 H-1B workers in fiscal year 2022. The State Department spokesperson declined to comment on questions about which visa types would qualify or the timing of the pilot launch. The steps could change and are not finalized until they are announced. The White House declined to comment. Each year, the US government makes 65,000 H-1B visas available to companies seeking skilled foreign workers, along with an additional 20,000 visas for workers with advanced degrees. The visas last for 3 years and can be renewed for another 3 years. it will be nearly impossible for the international community to recognize the Taliban government as long as restrictions on women and girls remain in place in Afghanistan. The United Nations envoy to the country and head of the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA, has said Rosa Otunbayeva told the UN Security Council on Wednesday that the Taliban have asked to be recognized by the UN and its member nations, in quote, but at the same time, they act against the key values expressed in the United Nations Charter. Afghanistan's Taliban government is not officially recognized by any foreign country or international organization since seizing power in August 2021 as United States and NATO forces were in the final weeks of withdrawing from the country. After 2 decades of war, the Taliban initially promised a more moderate rule than during their first stint in power from 1996 to 2001, but have since started to enforce restrictions on women and girls, including banning women from most jobs and public places such as parks, baths, and gyms. Girls are also banned from education beyond 6th grade. The Taliban also have brought back their strict interpretation of Islamic law, including public executions. Despite appeals to the Taliban, Otunbayeva reported no change to the restrictions on women and girls, including an April ban on Afghan women working for the UN. That is the size of top accolade global news update. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday.